So I know I said my Jokic video would be my last MVP candidates video, but it did actually end up doing really well, so I thought why not do another. And with how great Damian Lillard is playing, considering he has no CJ McCollum or Yusuf Nurkic, he deserves to be in the MVP conversation. So this is now episode 8 of MVP candidates, and this will most likely be the last one. So without further ado, let's get right into it. So Damian Lillard is one of the best point guards in the league and has been now for at least 4 seasons. And although we all know this, I think it's worth saying that Dame is good enough to win a championship, but it's unlikely he ever will if he plays out his career on the Portland Trail Blazers. And by the time he retires, I have no doubt that he'll be the greatest Blazer of all time. But now talking about Dame this season, I think it's safe to say that this is the best he's ever been. Although his stats are very similar to last season, I feel like he's better this season on the intangibles, and the Blazers only finished 8th seed last season. Not to mention how the West is definitely stronger this year, so if they can hold the 5th seed that they have right now, that'll be very impressive. In terms of the level that Dame is playing at and the stats he's putting up, he's playing at an MVP level, as 30 points and 8 assists on his efficiency is very impressive, and few guards are putting up those numbers. He's shooting over 38% from 3 with over 11 attempts a game, which is very nice, and I expect his 3-point percentage to reach 40% like last season. And as a 6'2" point guard, his game really doesn't have any weaknesses other than his defense. But Dame isn't even a bad defender, and you can't expect him to go all out on defense like Patrick Beverley for example, as he needs to save himself for the offense, which Patrick Beverley does not. So there's really not a lot I think Damian Lillard can do to become a better player other than just become more efficient, which is quite obvious. What really strengthens Dame's MVP narrative though is how great the Blazers are still without CJ McCollum and Yusuf Nurkic, like I mentioned earlier. Because CJ has only played 13 games and Nurkic has only played 12. And on paper, the Blazers really don't have that good of a roster when these two players are missing, so I'd certainly say they're overachieving. And the Western Conference as a whole is in quite an interesting situation, as the Clippers and the Lakers are the 2 best teams on paper, but are the 4th and 3rd seed respectively. And if the Utah Jazz and the Phoenix Suns somehow hold the 1st and 2nd seed, that'll be incredibly impressive. And if you did watch my Jokic video, you'll have seen that I spoke about how rare it is for a player to win the MVP without finishing a number 1 or 2 seed. Because since 1982, 77% of the time when a player has won MVP, it's been on a number 1 seed team. But there's one very important player that I forgot to mention, and I don't know how I missed him out. And it's in the 2016-17 season when Russell Westbrook won MVP and the Thunder only finished 6th seed in the West. But of course Westbrook did make history and was the first player ever to average a triple-double for the entire season, so I guess that's kind of understandable. And for Dame to win MVP this season, I do think it'll be really tough, but not impossible. Because the NBA is so talented this year, and it wouldn't be that unpopular to not even have Damian Lillard in your top 10. For me personally, I believe Dame is around the 10th best player in the league, but this would still be quite low for a player to win MVP. And pretty much every other contender in the MVP race, such as Joel Embiid, Nikola Jokic, LeBron James and Giannis, I think they're all more talented than Dame is. But like I've said time and time again in these videos, is that necessarily doesn't matter, as the MVP award isn't about who is the best player in the league, but who is most valuable to their team. And Dame is extremely valuable to the Blazers, and I genuinely think without him, they'd be one of the worst teams in the West. And so I feel like that already puts him above candidates like Kevin Durant and Kawhi Leonard, because if they weren't on their respective teams, they wouldn't suffer anywhere near as much as the Blazers would without Damian Lillard. So then you can put Dame in the group of Joel Embiid, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jokic and Steph Curry, as they're more of the sole star of their team. And while the Blazers are currently above the Nuggets and the Warriors in the standings, so you can argue he's already above Steph and Jokic, although I do think the Nuggets will finish a higher seed than what they are right now. But then there's Joel Embiid, who I think is unanimously the frontrunner for MVP right now, and it's going to be really hard to beat him. And then like I said about Giannis in my video on him, he would have a really good shot at MVP if he hadn't already won it twice. And so if Damian Lillard is going to win this year's MVP, I think he'd need to take the Blazers to the 3rd seed at least. But honestly, I think Dame has a much better chance at MVP than what a lot of people actually realised, and I certainly overlooked him at first. However, I do still have Joel Embiid as my favourite, but I do think Dame will finish top 5 in voting. But where do you think Dame will finish in MVP voting, and who is your favourite for the MVP award? Let me know down in the comments and I'll make sure to get back to you like I do with every single comment. Then I hope you've really enjoyed watching, you can like the video if you have, and then as always I'll see you on my next video.